Domino, The Lion King and Missing Link coming up next on the blog rundown. And John, we're going to kick off the show with a movie review coming in from DM Anderson. It is 2019's Domino, and this film was directed by the legendary Brian De Palma.
Yes, Stephen, this movie though, not so legendary I have to say, and Dave does touch upon this in his review, that it's not like the lofty pinnacle of the man's career when he was up there with the likes of Scorsese and whatnot, and Coppola. Not there anymore, sadly. Hasn't been for a long time. I actually looked at his filmography, Stephen, and you could make a case that Carlito's Way is the last great movie the man made. He also did 1993, I think, or two, and then he done Mission Impossible. That was a good movie. It wasn't a great movie. Carlito's Way was probably the last great movie from Brian De Palma. This is not a great movie, Stephen. I did watch it. It's not terrible. Dave pretty much nails it point for point in his review, the good points, the bad points.
Yeah.
There's flashes of what made the man so good, some flashes of sporadic violence and action and whatnot. He does mention a rooftop sequence, which was pretty damn cool. And obviously the festival shooting thing as well, that's just... it's in the heart of the story. It was slightly disturbing, Stephen, but I says to you, I'm that desensitised now about violence, having played video games, as they call them over in the States. We just call them games over here. And just things you see in the news and the real world that kind of desensitises you to what you see in these type of movies. So I've seen actual decapitation pictures, so when you see them in real life and then you see them in a movie, it loses a bit of oomph, you know.
This is the argument we always have for horror films, that the sort of shock element is sort of it's not there now, because we're so conditioned to what we actually see online now, John, on YouTube, or not so much YouTube now, but ones that slip through the net on various platforms.
Yes.
And you don't mean to get into them; they just appear. But Dave does say that this film is fairly well paced. It's a decent film. It doesn't. It's a watchable little thriller, he calls it. The cast, John, I'm not too familiar with most of the cast. Thomas W. Gabrielson and probably Guy Pearce are the only ones that I can identify from that cast.
Well, Stephen, there's two from Game of Thrones fame. Obviously, Therese Van Houten played, I believe, Melisandre in Game of Thrones. She was the Red Witch or Lady. She was the Lady of Light. Lord of the Light. She did his bidding through her.
Right, okay.
She's in there. Nikolai Coster-Waldau played Jaime Lannister in Game of Thrones. So I know those two very well. Obviously, Guy Pearce I know very well as well. That's very strangely worded. I know very well as well. I know very well too.
Yes.
And then you have Soren Molling in there. He plays Nicholas Coster-Waldau's partner, who has a bit of a tragic incident happen before him. If you want to watch this, I'll not spoil it, at the beginning of the movie. And he's not really in it that much after the first 15-20 minutes or so. I've seen him in The Vanishing with Gerard Butler and a few others. It was about a lighthouse. He played a Danish sailor who came over. He played a sort of a antagonistic figure in that movie. He's a decent actor. He doesn't really get utilised all that much in here. This is very much the Guy Pearce show, and that's what Dave does say. He's probably the most standout performance in the movie, and I would have to agree. When he steps on the screen, you're immediately grabbed by him. He has that presence.
He's had such a strange career though, John, because he's consistent in his work. Iron Man 3, he was a standout in that for me anyway.
It's very, you see that.
He's always, not in performance though, he's always, he always performs well. It's just his choice of films at times.
So very Nick Cage.
Yeah, exactly.
A great actor.
Yeah.
Very underestimated actor. But
certainly.
He's picked some terrible movies, and that's down to personal choice. Sometimes they like the script, they want to go off the beaten track and not go down the road of utilising or being seen in the big studio numbers, and they want to do their own stories through Netflix or whatnot. Stephen, one thing I hated in this movie though, absolutely detested, was the score by Pino Donaggio.
Okay.
God awful score. So over dramatic throughout. Very, very, very loud and pronounced. And it was like simple things like, I can't recall the actual chap's name, I think it was the ISIS double agent that the CIA were working in conjunction with. I'll try and find him just now. I can't see him at the moment.
Whatever though, John, but it does sound to me...
I think it was Eric Ebuani.
I've not seen the film, but it does sound to me that probably the composer didn't see the film. He was just told it was going to be a lot of action. Do something.
Well, this Ezra character was looking at a letter in this apartment after some chap he was pursuing jumped off a veranda or the balcony and died. He's looking at a letter and it's this big bombastic sort of over-dramatised score, and I was like, what is going on here? Terrible, terrible score, way over the top. They had to rein that back. It really annoyed me at various stretches of the movie. But look, it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen, Stephen, by any means. It wasn't the best by a long stretch either. Certainly when you see Brian De Palma you expect better, but when you actually look at his, as I did say previously, his more recent filmography, the guy is on a bit of a downward stretch, and as Dave says, he's more of a hired hand now than anything else.
Before we move on though, John, just one last question. For anyone who's not seen the film, that includes myself, would you recommend it?
Depends if you've got an hour and a half to kill, Stephen. It's not the worst movie, it's only an hour and a half long.
Just like
it's
Dave
not the
says.
longest. It's watchable.
We'll move on anyway to our next movie review. This one comes in from the movie Couple, and it is The Lion King from this year, the live action one.
Yeah.
Or CG, whatever you want to call it.
Photorealistic CGI.
That's the one. I couldn't remember what it's called.
Ali Plum from BBC. He coined that phrase whilst interviewing Jon Favreau.
That's probably the perfect description, actually, isn't it?
And Favreau says that he was going to go with that thereafter. So this is like, I'm surprised Favreau never coined that after, obviously, the Jungle Book. But yeah, photorealistic
I'm not bothered
CGI.
saying who the director is, John, because you've said it about 3 times there. As of course, Jon Favreau. And this stars the likes of Donald Glover, Beyonce's in there, Seth Rogen, etc, etc, etc. James Earl Jones is back, obviously, voicing Mufasa. But both the movie Couple, they don't really rate the film, John. Very disappointed by it. They've actually went to see quite a few of the films, the remakes this year, obviously with Aladdin as well. I think Jerry actually goes into, I think an hour into the movie, he did start having his doubts, you know, what he was doing in that movie theatre watching this film, because it just was a shot-for-shot remake. This was one of the things you can't avoid not talking about. As much as both you and I enjoyed this version of it, John, more on a technical level, I think, than anything. One of the things that did let me down technically was obviously the movement of the mouth. I thought it was quite weird, but the film visually was absolutely stunning. It's another level they've taken us to now with this kind of effect. The soundtrack, on the other hand, didn't do it for me, this one. Some of the reworks of some of the famous songs as well. I don't know if it's just because I'm so used to hearing those original songs, you know, from way back in 1994, and I'm just used to it. I just couldn't get on board with it. Am I right in saying, John, that this film was actually, the running time of this was actually longer than the original animated film?
I heard it was maybe a half an hour longer. 20 odd minutes longer.
I find that bizarre, because it didn't feel like it, and I didn't see anything that was
noticeably
drawn out, you know, or any added scenes or anything like that. But
I didn't recognise any additional scenes, Stephen. It has been a number of years since I've seen the original Lion King. But I agree with most of what you said there, Stephen. Some of the little niggly things that I had, also the animation of the mouths. Very difficult thing to balance that, obviously, when you're dealing with photorealistic animals. You can't really imbue them with as much emotion as you get in maybe a cartoon animation style. So I can give them a minor reprieve for that, because it is a difficult thing. And I felt visually it was just unbelievable. Right up there with the Jungle Book from a few years back, which obviously, as I did say previously, Favreau was involved in. Steve, one thing you can't slag is the cinematography. The chap involved, Caleb Deschanel, I don't know if I've said that name correctly, but he's been involved in just an incredible amount of brilliant movies over the years. The Passion of Christ, even The Patriot, Beatles 8 Days a Week. I thought that was incredibly well. The way that they edited that with the shots and whatnot was very, very cool.
Colorisation was terrible though.
Yeah, it was terrible, But he's been involved in so many good things, and I thought the cinematography was absolutely incredible. Some of the sequences where I think it was Mufasa and Simba are looking out onto the moon, and then it goes forward and it's like I think it's replaced by the sun. Some incredible juxtapositions fired in there, and I just thought that was splendid. Hans Zimmer did the scoring of this movie, and I felt that was a complete waste of the man's talents, because I don't recall, maybe I'm wrong, I don't recall there being much difference between this score and the score from 94, was it, the original one? 93, 94. I don't recall any difference. It was obviously taking all the songs out and replacing them, as they do say, the movie couple. There wasn't one new movie or song put in there. I don't believe there was, not even for Beyonce Knowles to sing.
The thing, John, that I find difficult, and Jon Favreau must have been thinking about this when, when he took this on board, when he decided to direct this film, was the conscious decision to put some of those iconic shots in and obviously redo them.
Yeah.
If he didn't do that, it would have been wrong.
It'd have been burnt at the stake.
He did it, and he was deemed wrong, so he couldn't really win. I think the director would have been aware of the reaction to this movie, where people were saying it's a cash cow. They're just trying to rip fans off. Mm-hmm. It's just a shot-for-shot remake. What else can you do with it? If you're the argument would be, and the answer would be, don't bother making it.
Yeah.
But I think we're at that stage now, and my daughter, I ask her, time and time again, with these films that are coming out, she's seen the animated one. She's only 6, and I'll ask her, what one do you prefer? She says she likes the photorealistic ones.
And Stephen, I think that is throwing a bit of slang in it again. I think that is where they are going with this, with these remakes. I don't think it's for people who were growing up or were fans of the originals in the 90s, or even further back with the likes of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, if we ever see that. I doubt we will, because of the precious petals. But I think it's for the new generation, Stephen. They're updating these visuals and also taking the plot points and beats from the original movies and just putting them right in and then updating the visuals around it. I think that's for the new generation to come in and enjoy the stories, who will not tolerate the old cartoon style because they didn't grow up with it, and that's not so. It's alien to them watching movies with that animation style. So I think that's for them. I think that's why I don't quite understand the criticisms of why they're doing this. You've always got the original to go back and watch. If you're not happy with it, or if it obviously doesn't meet your high expectations or whatever, and it hasn't for a lot of people, this movie in particular seemed to strike quite how would I put it? It didn't go over well with a lot of the critics. It get panned, but it done so well in the box office that obviously they've done something right. But if you're not happy with that animation style, then you can always go back to the original. It's like the classic argument with Star Wars. I'm guilty of it as well, Stephen. Absolutely tanning the sequel trilogy. Not to the extent where I've says it's butchered my childhood, but if you're that unhappy, you've always got the original ones you can go back and watch anyway. In terms of performances, Stephen, I have to say Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner were the absolute standouts for me as Timon and Pumbaa. Yeah. Incredible bit of chemistry. I watched the behind the scenes shots of them working together in the studio doing the voice work. They were standing across from each other, and I felt that really came through in the performances.
I think they needed it as well, John, because as the movie couple say, all those little sort of the little bits, the wee sort of quirks in there with animated faces and stuff like that was all obviously removed because of the technology that was getting used. These two characters and they two actors lifted the spirits of the movie at times when it needed it. Yeah, you need to overcompensate, Stephen, with the performances when you have photorealistic and you can't maybe get across the emotions of the characters. You really have to dial it up a notch. I felt like this era would have been tailor-made for like a 1990s Robin Williams, where you really have to dial it up. I mean, he was doing it with the Genie in Aladdin in the 90s, but he would have been so good with these onslaught of new Disney remakes. Out with that though, Stephen, you've got Keegan-Michael Key. He played Kimari, I think that was the messenger bird for Mufasa. Yeah. He was decent as well. I can't really recall the original portrayal, but he was, in my mind anyway, a decent stand-in for the original, obviously, performance. Yeah. Or was it Zazu? Actually, I think it was Zazu who was the goddamn bird. I think it was Zazu. So in other words, it's John Offer, not Michael Keegan-Key. Michael Keegan-Key, I think, played one of the hyenas. I think that was what it was. Which takes me on to the next complaint from the movie. Couple, they weren't happy with the hyenas, Stephen. No. What did you make of them? I thought they were very sinister.
I can see what they're saying. They're right. They played them off scary.
Yeah, but that's because the tone of the movie is different to the animated one. You can't have them playing that sort of slapstick, sort of comedic way in that type of movie. I understand what they're saying. They are making the comparison and they're right, but it would be too jarring to have them acting that way in this version.
Yeah, Stephen, what I was getting at with that though is obviously they have played the hyenas as a whole off as a more sinister threat. They're obviously the army for Scar. But I think if I'm right, and it is Keegan-Michael Key, not Michael Keegan-Key if I said that previously incidentally, there was a bickering between two of the hyenas, which I actually found quite funny, and continued on throughout the story. Like, they lie down beside him and you're like, come on, give me space and whatnot. That was played off for comedic moments, and I thought it was quite funny. Out with that though, Donald Glover, he's not the most amazing singer in the world. Beyonce, and I love the guy, he's an incredible artist, so talented, but he's not the best, he's not blessed with the greatest singing voice. No. And Beyonce, I just felt, they never utilised her voice as well as they perhaps could have. It's not like what they did with Naomi Scott and Aladdin, where she had their own song, and they really emphasised the fact she was a professional singer.
I think the difference is though with Naomi Scott is that our brand isn't as big as Beyonce.
Yeah.
That was probably a conscious decision on the filmmakers not to do that with Beyonce because her brand would overshadow the whole movie, John.
Yeah.
I think they might have handled it just about right in terms of her performances. But again, as I said previously, I didn't really take to these songs this time round as I did to the original ones, just because that's what I'm used to.
Yeah, Steve,
I'm not saying they're wrong or they're rubbish or anything like that. Just not my cup of tea.
And that'll take me into my final point on this movie, which I do agree with. The songs weren't as good, Stephen. The Can You Feel the Love Tonight? It was the day. It was during the day. The scene was shot in daytime. Can You Feel the Love Tonight? What were you thinking, John? Talking about Favreau, obviously. Yeah. That was terrible. Terrible decision. And the songs didn't quite play off to the same level. They were enjoyable enough, though. They didn't hamper it by any means. Final thing. Obviously, James Earl Jones. I felt his voice was much better in this than it was in Rogue One, so I don't know what they've done with that.
I don't know.
Triple track to
I
beefed up.
had asked you, John. I think it was probably one of the trailers when his voice came through, and I couldn't remember off the top of my head whether or not are they using the old audio, the old dialogue here.
They certainly could be. They could have been beefing it up with the older version.
Well, they could have, yeah, exactly. But I still to this day don't know if they were. I'd have to see. I'd have to make a comparison. You know, if they did that or not. If someone out there knows, then please do comment, because I'm not really sure, because you're right, his voice in Rogue One, which was made 3 years ago, was very tired and very breathless at times. Well, that's, pardon the pun, for Darth Vader, but he did sound like he was struggling, to be fair. But this he didn't. He sounded very fresh, he sounded very much alive and enthusiastic, and I don't know if that's just, if it was old recordings or not. Yeah,
Stephen, I've not got much more to add to that one, so I think we'll fire right into the next.
Move on, John, to it's another one from DM Anderson. He's been a busy boy. It's the Missing Link from this year, John. This is a Blu-ray movie review, and this was directed and written by Chris Butler. It stars the likes of a whole host of stars here.
Yeah.
The likes of Hugh Jackman, Zoe Saldana's in it, Emma Thompson, Matt Lucas, the Stephen Fry, the list goes on. Star-studded, John. You've seen this film. I've not, actually. I did see the trailer. We did a reaction for it a few months ago. In fact, it might have been about 6 months ago by now. I think it was earlier this year.
It was, yeah, it was a while back.
February or something like that.
Yeah.
One of the things I take from it, and I remember when the trailer came out, I think it did say from the makers of Kubo and the Two Strings, was I knew what we were going to get. It was going to be a stop-motion animated film.
Yeah, Stephen, and that's exactly what it is. These guys are the real masters of a dying breed that is stop-motion. Obviously, as time and technology moves on, you get movies which can probably utilise the stop-motion style and do it in complete digital filming. The likes of Pixar could do it, I'm absolutely sure. But I've read about the concept of why they do this, Stephen, and just the processing and what goes through their minds. Even Chris Butler, he's been involved, the guy who directed and wrote it. He was involved in Kubo and the Two Strings. I think he was involved in Paranorman. I think I said that right.
Yep.
I always want to say Paranormal, but I'm sure it's Paranorman.
Paranorman,
he was involved in them, and he says the reason they still continue to do this is because there's a certain magic to it. When young children perhaps go in and watch it and discover that this is 9-inch dolls being moved, seen frame by frame, second by second.
Unbelievable.
It obviously captures their imagination and it takes away that cynicism while it's all been done on a computer, sort of a vibe. So I love to see this art form continuing on, and I really did enjoy this movie, Stephen. I went to see it when it was out in the cinema. I thought it was a fantastically crafted movie. Story was okay, and I think Dave agrees with me when he says the story was okay. I mean, it was enjoyable enough. The characters felt full of life. They were pretty damn energetic in the way they were fleshed out on the screen, and in terms of voice acting. I think Dave didn't quite enjoy the voice acting as much as I did. I thought Hugh Jackman as the Eton educated posh Englishman who's this outsider, just desperate to get into this, I think, hunting society it was, or some group, pompous group. He's just desperate to be accepted. And then you have the character of Link, aka Susan, who is again an outsider. He's the last sort of a Sasquatch. I think that's what we call it anyway.
Yeah.
And he's trying to be accepted into. He's trying to go off to the Himalayas, find a new Shangri-La, and be accepted into this new environment. So it's these two outsiders battling together with a common sort of a purpose through the story. I thought the story was great. I thought the acting, saying the story was great, I just says it was okay. We'll rein that back a little bit. It was okay, it wasn't great. I thought the acting was great. Obviously, Zoe Saldana is in there as a sort of a third rung in this leading, I want to say trio, I don't know if you could call it a leading trio. Technically it's Hugh Jackman and Zach Galifianakis, but Zoe Saldana's in there for a sizable role as well. I thought they were very good. I can't recall who Stephen Fry was playing. I don't know if he was playing the antagonistic figure, but there's a little western bandit figure that hunts the characters throughout the whole story, who was pretty decent. And I've seen a quote, Stephen, before I let you in, because I'm gibbering away.
That's okay.
Nonsensically here. There was a quote referred to this as a sort of a little bit of Indiana Jones, a little bit of planes, trains and automobiles, a little bit of, I think it was Around the World in 80 Days or something, and it just had a whole mismatch of different themes and obviously I think elements from different classic movies, and it had a whole host of things going on within the story, and I felt that was the best way to sum this movie up. It was just sort of a mismatch buddy sort of a thing going on, and then it had elements of western in there, elements of adventure, and just this great story of friendship blooming throughout the story. So I thought it was fantastic. Real shame it didn't get the box office performance it deserved.
It's one of those films, Sean, that you've got to show an appreciation for. Because of its production, I think they do say Dave does say in the review, Leica Studios, I think they've made 5 films in 10 years or something like that. So it's taken them a good couple of years to make these animated films.
Yeah.
And you've got to be really into these type of films because society doesn't appreciate the time and work that goes into these films. If you've ever watched any documentaries on stop motion, you see how painstaking it is and how time consuming and accurate it's got to be or it doesn't work. Dave does say that at times it's almost seamless, the way it flows.
It is.
Just because the attention to detail, you would be forgiven to think it was animated CG, which it isn't. Kubo and the Two Strings was a fantastic movie, John. Absolutely stunning, fascinating, but again, you're catering to a niche audience, I think, that's got to appreciate that. The marketing over here for this film was pretty
poor. Yeah.
Apart from that one trailer, I think we got.
And even then, Stephen, it didn't really set the head of the light at all, that trailer.
Also, I think, John, as well, and I'm guilty of this as well, when this review dropped by Dave, I think it was at the end of July, I thought, oh good, I've seen this film, can't wait to talk about this. He's the one about, the Bigfoot and all that, and I think the release time of this was roughly around about the time. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was around about the same time as Smallfoot came out.
Yeah, it came out just before.
Yeah,
but I think that was probably it. They were probably raging, Steve and Leica, because they've probably started this movie about 2 years prior. And then they've put that whole other movie together. I think that was Channing Tatum and James Corden, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah,
that was a good little movie as well.
I enjoyed
Real splashes of humour in there, and it was a really similar story, Stephen. Just this Yeti utopia thing, sort of a Shangri-La hidden. I think there was differences in the story though. Smallfoot was a cool, independent little story in its own right. But you're right, Stephen, and Dave's right as well in what he says about the promotion of this movie. Just the fact that the aesthetics, they don't really care about attracting the widest demographic and perhaps younger children like Pixar do. They've got their own sort of it's like a collection of artists in this studio. I think they're based in Oregon or Portland or something like that. I don't think it is Oregon. And it's like a real work of art, and they really appreciate being part of it. And they almost craft it for themselves. And then if it goes off to be a real success, then that's a Brucey bonus point.
Well, exactly,
But Kubo and the Two Strings, again, you're right, Stephen. One of my favourite stop motion movies. I've been a real fan of the technique for years. Big fan of Leica Studios, and that's why I went to see the movie, regardless of the actual trailer not being up there as the absolute best sort of a thing to promote the movie. The other thing I would add, there was something else I was going to add. I think it was the actual process of creating this movie, just what goes into it. I read an incredible quote, Stephen, that there is 26 frames in each second in this movie. There is 96 minutes in this movie, and I think it's 1,300 odd frames, painstakingly shot with one still image camera, Canon camera, and then it all flows together. So that shows you the dedication from these people. just keeping this dying art alive. And as I did say, Dave says it as well, it's a real shame that it doesn't perform as well. This sort of a movie at the box office is maybe a pile of shit like the Emoji Movie.
Yeah, listen, it's you're right, John, it is a dying art, almost like spear making. It is a dying art. But listen, that brings us to the end.
They should do a movie about spear making.
I wouldn't watch that.
Oh, yeah.
This brings us to the end of this week's blog rundown. We'd just like to thank you once again for joining us, and we will be back again tomorrow with the Force Friday show.